Bismarck Insights with Mayor Mike Schmitz, a transparent and engaging conversational dive into meaningful topics impacting local government in Bismarck, North Dakota. Bismarck Insights is dedicated to removing barriers between the city of Bismarck and the citizens we serve every day.
Good morning. Today we're with Bismarck Insights. I'm Mayor Mike Schmitz, and I have with me Lorraine Davis from Native Inc. Lorraine, thank you for joining me, but because people probably don't know what Native Inc. is, I'm going to have you first tell us a little bit about you, and then what you can tell me about Native Inc.
Yes, hi, good morning. My name is Lorraine Davis. I am the founder and CEO of Native Inc. As you know, we've known each other a long time.
Yes.
And you know where my heart's at. It's in homelessness, addressing behavioral health issues. And my background really comes from, in doing this work, is really from my lived experience. I've been that person. And I was homeless in Bismarck, Mandan. I was homeless for about a good year. When I first started, I moved here to Bismarck in 2001, and just me and my son. And I did okay at the beginning. I came here to go to United Tribes Technical College. I wanted to get a higher education. It was my first one, but I ran into some bumps. And I came with alcoholism, but I came with a lot of other good things too. That was internal, that saved me.
Yeah.
And I believe that even though we see somebody that is homeless on the street, that is doesn't look like they're trying or that they care, or I know that there's some of them still have a vision for their life.
They sure do.
And they have dignity and pride, and we want to foster that.
So let's talk about Native Inc. What is the mission for Native Inc.? Because I may know it, but I know a lot of people don't, and I think that's really important for our audience and our citizens to know. So, what is the mission?
The mission is really to transform lives. And a lot of people ask, do you just serve Native Americans? And I always tell them, oh no, I said we serve all people. So we serve all people, regardless of race, ethnicity, and what have you. It's more of us meeting a cultural need. I think that is where we kind of hone into the Native American population. Because there is a need, and a human need to be able to meet that need. And so Native Inc.'s its mission is to address homelessness and to address the deeper issues of what causes homelessness, like trauma.
Yep. And so as we talk about that, and we know that there is a concern in the greater communities of Bismarck, Mandan, Burleigh, and Morton County, frankly statewide, around individuals who are without homes. Across the entire diverse sector of our population base. Doesn't matter gender, race, religion, all of that, right?
Yes.
But you're able to bring in a little different approach maybe than others because of having some of that cultural background, and I know that we have talked about what you are trying to do at Native Inc. and various other components of your operation to allow some of that cultural activity to happen for those individuals who maybe don't have a home right now.
Yes.
What are some of those?
So there's a lot of things going on. It was about 4 years ago now we started providing cultural programs. Because Native Inc. first at the shoot, we started with homelessness. We started getting into that arena and addressing that issue, and then we got into criminal justice, prison recidivism. So then we led into behavioral health programs, and we have multiple contracts to solve that. However, we wouldn't be a Native American organization had we not filled cultural needs. Obviously, that's just a no-brainer, but how we do that is, it's not really been done before. It's not designed. There's no model to pull from. So it's been a learning curve of how we want to approach it, kind of testing what the community really wants to see, understanding our clients, the people coming through. How can we best bring this out to the community and trying to meet all the different needs? And then there's an educational component to just mainstream, right?
Yep.
I generalize mainstream because there is interest there.
Yep.
And more, I feel like it's becoming normalized is to, gaining their interest in the cultural arena. And so why is it so important? It's important because our way of life is in how we see healing from trauma, whether it's PTSD or whether it's historical or intergenerational trauma. We all know that, like us as Native people, we all know our stories. We all know what is commonly happening to us on the reservation, and it carries off to the urban areas. And so running an urban Indian organization, I specifically see primarily tribal people that are coming through. And again, we serve all people. However, how do we help them heal? That is the goal. I want to get to the core issue. Homelessness is what we see. It's a result of a deeper issue. Even addiction, the mental health, is an outcome of a deeper issue.
No question about that.
Yes, a deeper issue. So what is that core issue? I want to problem solve. I don't think I'm the answer to everything by any means, but I hope that our work is helpful into at least getting a start into the systematic structure of how we're normalizing things and how we do things. And I see it not working. When I first came into this space, working at United Tribes Technical College as a housing director, really opened my eyes. And I started, being a housing director of family housing. I'm seeing families and parents being, and not all, some are totally fine, but there's some that struggle with the addiction. Then comes violence, then comes child neglect. I mean, this is all too common to me.
Yep. So let's dive a bit in, because I think it's important people understand. So what are some of those cultural experiences that you're trying to make sure we can make available? They may not yet be available, but what are we, Sweat Lodge?
Yes.
What are we trying to be able to accomplish, or you're trying to get accomplished? Because I think it is important. Me as a white male, I have my cultural experiences, which are different than what you, with your mixed, actually, ethnicity background, than I would have, and I heal differently than you do.
Yeah.
And there's a big difference, and I don't think people understand that.
Yeah. Very good point. How we heal. So we want Native Americans in that process to be able to have access to healing. What does that look like? So the significant one is spiritual, and that is the Sweat Lodge. In the Sweat Lodge, it's an outdoor, kind of looks like a dome. It's made out of all red willow, and there's a lot of significance. And even the whole building process of it is all spiritual. And you just don't pick any kind of red willow or rocks and things to make it. Ceremonies are happening in that Sweat Lodge. So we're conducting, and there's different kinds of ceremonies. And even to understand, like, when you think about, like, you go to church and there's a pastor that is administering that church. Well, the same thing, the person that is running the Sweat Lodge is kind of like your pastor, so to speak. They've earned those rights, they have knowledge, they have gifts, and it's been passed down to them. And so they have that right to do that. And so the teaching is happening inside there. So you can refer to like a Sweat Lodge, almost like in trying to compare it to some that aren't familiar, to a church, so to speak. So we're building community out of Sweat Lodge ceremonies. And so we host those at least once a week. That's a common standard schedule. However, we meet the needs of the community members. So when we have somebody who had a death in the family, somebody, anything traumatic, they need it right now.
Yep.
We respond and we're going to have a sweat for them, and everybody's welcome. So we really build community and everybody's welcome who supports those specific families and that. So that is one, and that's very significant into healing. And then there's also cultural programming, which is doing things like regalia making classes, hand drum making classes, beading, sewing, of all types of cultural items, so to speak, arts and crafts. And that is significant because it's, for one, it's meeting our mental health need because we have cultural connection now.
Yep.
And so having a Native American center that is fully programmed with cultural programs in addition to the services to really meet the needs. And services are for all people. Cultural programs, spiritual programs. Of course, anybody is welcome to come to any of our spiritual cultural programs because, like I said, a lot of people want to learn.
Yep.
And I think that's a beautiful thing. Like, I don't think we need to be in silos, and I think that that's how we've been. And so that continues to divide us and keep us separate and not understand a greater worldview, which makes us a better person.
And it's extraordinarily important that we do develop that worldview, and and we have a lot of cultures in the city of Bismarck.
Yes.
And I think just to
That's
be open
beautiful.
to the concept of what's happening is important. So I know that we've talked a little bit about what the primary program and focus that you've had, but I know we've shared some discussions and some goals of how we can try to address some of the underhomed or underhoused population or unhoused population. And what do you think are some things that you've got working on, that you're trying to work on, that may address some of those?
Yes. So, I've been doing this a long time. 2008, I started getting into the Homeless Coalition of Bismarck and understanding the whole landscape and the issues. And then left in 2010, and I came back in 2014 as a nonprofit and been doing it ever since, managing homeless dollars. And so what I see is I'm at that point now, so we're 10 years later into hardcore into it, right? And I see that we're still struggling. I mean, things have gotten a little better. I mean, they ebb and flow.
Yep.
And it's because of resources, right? It's a systematic issue. There's not enough resources coming from the federal government, from the state government, and then local government is limited to the HUD dollars as well. And so it's really HUD money that's what's addressing this issue. And it's going to take more money that pass through HUD.
Yep.
I think that's where it should come from.
So can you, being so intimately involved in this particular segment of our city and cities, idea of how many homes we need to try to find, and not everybody we realize is going to even want that shelter. There's a certain population that just won't even go there. But if we were going to identify, just so people understand that there is this need, and what is that? Do you have a rough idea? Maybe how many spots? I guess I'll call it, or rooms.
Yeah, for shelter.
Yeah.
Because I see it as a two-pronged approach. We need shelter, homeless shelter, because the current way that we're doing things is not meeting the full need.
Yep.
We have homeless people at our center every day. And, it comes down to money again, capacity. Our neighbor is Ministry on the Margin, so they can't, afford to stay open fully. And then you have United Way, who is, there's policies, procedures that sometimes doesn't allow some folks to stay there.
Right.
So then, you have those that are hanging out. And then they're waiting for us to open every morning. So the sheltering, there's still a need. And that is one of the projects we're actually looking at doing. I'm to that point to where we gotta do something in this space. So I've been talking to the tribal nations, and asking them for a partnership to see if there's anything financially that they would like to do on this effort. And I just started that process last Friday, so it's very new, and I've already talked to one tribe. And so that's more discussion. We're looking at space right in the vicinity of our area right now, and so that's one thing. And then affordable housing.
Yep, and that's as important.
It is. It is. We got to come at it from both sides, because you have the immediate need that needs to be addressed and the longer term need that needs to be addressed. And affordable housing is not just affordable housing. There are projects that exist, not enough, but this particular project would be permanent supportive housing. So residents that live in this housing unit, typically 36 units, is what those projects are. And you offer them the actual services to the residents. So they would get services. So
Right.
it's a little different
So
than
like what types of services, so people understand?
Yep. So we're doing a lot of programs, for example, care coordination.
Okay.
You know, you're coordinating their care. If we can't do it, we're going to refer to the right agency, provider, and so forth. Transportation is huge.
Yep.
Huge, very common and very much needed. And then also like the peer support, the family support, continued housing supports, even financial. And that's something I think that's really unique, and Native Inc. actually doesn't do that itself. Our sister organization that is co-located within our space here in Bismarck does financial literacy, and we do one-on-one coaching.
And that's so important. I mean, I think as a culture, as a country, you know, we really struggle with financial literacy for a lot of us.
Managing money.
But
Yeah.
So that's good to know that you've got this, at least it's a plan. We're going to see if it can come to fruition and where we can get the dollars to accomplish that.
Yes.
But that's providing or making sure that those individuals who are already struggling, try to keep a roof over their head, you know, to have that ability to find services or have access to, you know, how do I get to the clinic, or how do I make sure I get my connections, and transportation. I do think we have some positive stuff that will happen with transportation,
Great.
at least from the public side. Starting mid-year, probably we'll have the funding available to see what that comes to,
Good.
and we're going to we need to look at what public transportation needs to be providing.
Definitely,
that will be
it's
discussed, I think,
good.
significantly over the next 2 to 3 months with a group of people, and then the dollars that are coming from sales tax for that initiative, hopefully will then drive some of that, because as I understand it, it takes, I don't ride public transportation, I just hear about it, but it could take an hour for someone to get from point A to point B in Bismarck only. And
Yes,
so
yes. And you know, one of the beautiful programs, well, not just one, they're all beautiful programs under behavioral health. That's really what's helped us to continue to do homeless programming. Because honestly, homeless programming, because it's HUD funded, is very administrative heavy. And you really have to care about people, like, to take it on.
Yep.
And figure out where you're getting money to pay for the work, the position to do the work. And so the behavioral health programs, the contracts we're getting from the state, we're doing 1959 Community Connect, Free Through Recovery, which are contracts, and then the latest one is Systems of Care. So now we're into children's and family. And that is how we're able to carry it on and do the work. And so it's a beautiful connection by crossing over. And so what I see, Native Inc. is not unique only because of the cultural programming, but because we're crossing across the whole person. And so we're doing all of these different, from workforce development to financial literacy to small business development even, trying to get more money, earned income. Just different ways to, because poverty is kind of a foundation of some of this too. Trauma and poverty go together, and so we really need a social economic model And that's what we built between the two organizations. So that's what makes it really unique. So lived experience in really led the foundation of designing this model for our community. And I really feel strongly that we're really onto a path where we can expand not only into the urban areas that like we are in North Dakota. We're not just in Bismarck, we're Fargo and now opening an office in Grand Forks currently, and expanding into South Dakota. And we get asked to expand into these communities. Yep. And so I see this as a potential model because we need housing first. That is the ultimate first step, is you need housing first. And then you start exploring all the issues that they're having. And then, because it is probably 5% of the time we have somebody walk in and say, I want to go to treatment. Or somebody say, I need help. I need a peer support. I need someone to talk to. It's about 5%.
Yeah, it's the housing
it's
first,
the housing.
Right? But we know the underlying impact might be coming from these other areas or the other underlying problem.
Get to know them.
So what is it that the community can do to help your organization?
I think, we're always continuously looking to work together and to help solve problems. I personally don't go to the Homeless Coalition meetings, but I am very much trying to do the best I can and trying to kind of do this wraparound model. So I can't participate in those all the time. But I think that the community can really be supportive in ensuring that Native Americans, if they choose to do so, not everybody is traditional. Not everybody is maybe raised that way. Some, but to give them awareness that these programs are happening, because it is very much mental health prevention. I think about, trying to, we all have a human need to connect with people. And if we can't connect with people, we might go back to connecting the way we used to connect. There's not a fully programmed community center to come do healthy things, right?
It's across the whole
every ethnicity.
Population. Yeah, that connection and be able to, I'll call break the old train.
Yes.
Or the old ways and that habit. Very difficult.
Yes.
Once it's there, you've lived it. So
Definitely.
You know it.
And I was very lonely when I started my recovery process. I wasn't into basketball and all of that since like high school. And so I wasn't into all these leagues, and I didn't have that to kind of fall back to like my husband did, and he used to, and that helped him a ton. But for me, it wasn't like that. I realized like I had no friends that didn't drink. I mean, it's really eye-opening that how much your life evolved. It was really, we talk about like our culture, our traditions, it's a way of life. When we don't have that, and when we or lose it, we actually, our alcoholism, our drugs, all becomes our way of life. Without admitting that, it is a way of life. Yep. And even the violence, that it's all stemmed in together. So, and we haven't even touched about the issue of violence and the way that we need to address that as well.
Sure. I'm going to ask one last question just because I forgot to do it earlier.
Yeah.
You tell me the types of individuals you have working for you, trying to provide these services that you provide. Are they? What's their background?
Yeah, we're not. You don't. You have to be a tribal member to be hired with us. I mean, we've hired. It's not specific to race or ethnicity, that kind of thing, but predominantly they are. Not all, but most are. And the thing that they're doing, so we're hiring care coordinators, peer support specialist, domestic violence advocate and coordinator. We have, just trying to think of the other offices. We also have the most recent cultural coordinators. We have hired those, and we have a project director, a consumer finance counselor, and then a loan officer.
So do you have any social workers, or are some of those people social workers that are providing those services?
Well, actually, so this is the beautiful thing when I say about the behavioral health reform in our state, really are leading the way in our country. and I don't know where we're at, but it's on the top tiers. And what they're doing is they're actually increasing workforce development in this space because there isn't enough licensed social workers, there isn't enough therapists, clinical psychologists, nurses, and so forth. And so by doing care coordination, you don't have to be licensed to anything. You do have to have some level of, degree in college and that, but you get trained. And what's really important is that you have lived experience. And if it's not directly, at least not for the care coordinators, if it's not directly the lived experience, like peer support, you have to have the lived experience, but at least have the knowledge and understanding of the impacts to community. I mean, you have to, if you're out of touch, and are fortunate to be out of touch from that, that's probably not the work for you.
Sure.
So.
Well, Lorraine, thank you for joining me today on Bismarck Insights. And citizens, just know that there are these services out there that can help anyone in the community. Quite frankly,
Yes.
they're not going to turn anyone away.
No.
But it is a great asset that we have in our communities of Bismarck and Mandan. Lorraine, thank you again for what you're doing.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you for watching Bismarck Insights with Mayor Mike Schmitz. If you have specific topics or questions you'd like addressed in future episodes, email mschmitz@bismarcknd.gov. Or call the City of Bismarck at 701-355-1300. To learn more about the City of Bismarck, visit bismarcknd.gov or follow us on a variety of social media channels by searching BismarckND.gov. Bismarck Insights is a collaboration between Dakota Media Access and the City of Bismarck. You may find Bismarck Insights episodes on Government Access Channels 2 and 602, as well as on Roku, Apple TV, and Fire TV devices, on Radio Access 102.5 FM and on demand at freetv.org.